She didn't collapse to her knees in a white dress. She didn't run out into the rain or send dramatic late-night messages. It all began with a single suggestion, spoken too calmly, as if it weren't a way to destroy love, but just a new weekend idea. "What if we did things a little differently?" she asked. Jonathan's life had nothing out of the ordinary. Work, home, a warm and steady routine. He believed in honesty, loyalty, and that love was a partnership, not a transaction. But that one phrase shifted everything. A new experience, an open relationship. No feelings involved, just exploration. At first, he tried to be flexible, tried to understand, tried not to lose her. But the further this freedom went, the tighter the noose became around his neck, made of lies, second phones, and "it doesn't mean anything." And when the truth finally surfaced, it was already too late. "Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. It really helps my channel a lot. Please tell me in which city or country you watched this video. I value every one of your comments. So, let's get started. I never sought out drama. My days moved in a comfortable rhythm. Punch in at work, head home, occasionally catch up with a few close friends. I had always subscribed to a pretty traditional view of relationships and what marriage ought to look like. Then came Naomi. We met at a casual backyard party thrown by a mutual acquaintance. There was something electric about her, full of life, effortlessly charming, impossible to ignore. We hit it off right away. After 2 solid years together, I proposed. She said yes, and for a while, everything felt right. We dove headfirst into imagining our future, joint bank accounts, weekend getaways, maybe a dog someday. But as is often the case, the script didn't play out quite as expected. About a year after we got engaged, an unexpected topic surfaced, one that threw our plans into uncertainty. We were sprawled on the couch one evening, half invested in some show about unconventional couples, when she said, casually, but with a certain weight behind her words, "Hey, have you ever thought about doing things a little differently?" I turned toward her, eyebrows raised. "Different how?" She hesitated for a second. "Like, opening up the relationship a bit?" I blinked, caught off guard. "An open relationship?" I echoed, trying to wrap my head around the idea. "Where is this coming from?" She gave a light shrug. "I was reading this piece earlier today. It talked about couples who found longevity and happiness by giving each other some freedom, still committed, but with space to explore." I sat with that for a moment, unsure how to respond. "Are you unhappy with us?" Her answer came fast. "No, not at all. I love you, Jonathan, truly. But I thought maybe it could be something new, something exciting. Nothing serious, just exploration." I exhaled slowly. "I'm not sure, Naomi. That's never really been part of how I imagined our relationship." She rested her hand lightly on mine. "You don't have to decide now. Just think about it." That night I lay awake, thoughts spinning. Was there something she needed that I wasn't giving her? Had I been missing signs? Over the next several days she mentioned it again, casually, like it wasn't a big deal, but always with that same hopeful glint in her eyes. It started to feel like she was waiting for me to come around. Eventually, I relented. One evening, I turned to her and said, "All right, let's give it a try, but we need to set some rules." Her face lit up. "Are you serious?" "Yeah," I nodded, "but there have to be boundaries, ground rules." We came up with a few together. No emotional attachments, full transparency, and a mutual understanding that we'd pull back if it started to hurt either of us. A week later, Naomi had a night out with her girlfriends. When she got back, she was practically glowing. "How was it?" I asked. "Really nice," she said, grinning slyly. "I met someone, Grant. He's fun, but don't worry, it's just light." I nodded, swallowing the knot forming in my throat. Not long after, I figured it was time for me to step into this new world too. Camilla, a colleague I'd always had good rapport with, came to mind. I asked if she wanted to grab a coffee sometime. "Wait, are you actually asking me out?" Camilla said, laughing. I chuckled a bit awkwardly. "Yeah, things are kind of different for me now." She tilted her head. "Different how?" "My fiancé and I are experimenting with an open relationship," I said. Her eyebrows rose. "That's unexpected. How's it going?" "Honestly, still finding my footing, but I thought maybe we could hang out." She smiled. "Sure, let's see where it goes." Camilla and I began seeing each other casually, coffee dates, relaxed dinners, the occasional flirtatious moment. It was nice to feel noticed, but beneath it all, I felt unsettled. One night, over a quiet dinner, Naomi asked, "So, how's it going with Camilla?" "She's cool," I said, keeping it vague. "We're just keeping it chill." She gave a slow nod, then looked away for a beat. "Jonathan, there's something I need to tell you." I felt a tightness rise in my chest. "What is it?" "I've been seeing Grant more often than we originally said we would," she admitted. A pang of anxiety hit me. "How often are we talking?" "Every other day," she said softly. My jaw clenched. "That's not what we agreed on, Naomi." "I know," she said, her voice trembling. "It just happened. We really connected, but I didn't mean for it to go this far." Her eyes shimmered. "I love you, Jonathan. I don't want to lose us." I stared at her, overwhelmed. "I need space. I need time to think." The days that followed, I kept my distance. I needed air. I needed clarity. At work, Camilla noticed the shift almost immediately. "You've been a little off lately. Everything okay?" she asked gently. "It's Naomi," I sighed. "She's caught feelings for the guy she's seeing." Camilla's eyes were thoughtful as she slowly nodded, a hint of concern shadowing her face. "Jonathan, maybe this whole open relationship thing just isn't meant for you." I let out a long breath, the truth finally sinking deep into my chest like a stone. "Yeah. I think you're right. I thought I could handle it, but it's pulling us apart instead of bringing us closer." She reached across the table, the soft brush of her fingers against mine offering quiet comfort. "You're a good man, Jonathan. You deserve someone who's fully committed, no conditions, no halves." Her words followed me like a ghost on my walk home. When I stepped through the door, Naomi was waiting on the couch, tension written all over her face. "We need to talk," she said, without preamble. I dropped onto the seat across from her, steeling myself. "Yeah, we do." Her voice was steady, deliberate. "I've made a decision." My brows lifted. "You have?" "I'm ending it with Grant," she said firmly, not a flicker of doubt in her eyes. I blinked, stunned. "You're serious?" She nodded. "Dead serious. I don't want to lose you, Jonathan. Opening the relationship, it was a mistake. I still love you. I want to fix this." Relief swept through me, sudden and deep. "I love you too, Naomi. But this isn't something we fix overnight. We've got a lot to rebuild." "I know," she said, her voice low but resolute. "And I'm ready to do the work." At first, things genuinely started to improve. She cut Grant out of her life, and we both committed to therapy. It felt like progress, but the past hung over us like a storm cloud that refused to pass. Restoring trust turned out to be harder than either of us imagined. Then one evening, I walked in and found her speaking softly into her phone. The second she noticed me, she hung up. "Who were you talking to?" I asked. "No one," she replied quickly, avoiding my gaze. "Naomi, don't lie." My tone sharpened, slicing through the silence. She hesitated before finally admitting. "It was Grant. He called me just to check in." The sting of betrayal was immediate. You gave me your word, I reminded her coldly. I know, Jonathan. I didn't reach out. He did, she said, her voice growing defensive. But something in her tone, the way her eyes danced away from mine, it didn't sit right. Later that night, when she was fast asleep, I sat in the dark, listening to the quiet hum of the house. My hand trembled as I reached for her phone on the nightstand. I scrolled through her messages, heart pounding. It was all there, message after message from Grant. Not just the odd check-in, long threads, recent conversations, signs of a relationship that had never truly ended. One text read, "I miss you. When can we meet again?" Another, just from yesterday. "Jonathan has no idea, right?" I sat frozen, her phone resting on my knees, my mind spinning, breath shallow and tight. I didn't return it. I didn't sleep. I just sat in the living room, watching the darkness stretch into morning. By the time the sun came up, I was already sitting at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee that had long since gone cold. Naomi shuffled in, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Morning," she said, leaning in to kiss me. I turned away. She stopped short. "What is it?" Without a word, I slid her phone across the table. The screen lit up, still on her messages with Grant. Her face went pale. "Jonathan, I saw everything," I said, voice ice cold. "You told me it was done. You promised me." She wrapped her arms around herself, retreating into a protective shell. I didn't mean for it to keep going. I didn't know how to stop. "Oh, you didn't know how," I said, standing. "You just kept sneaking around instead, lying to me." Tears welled in her eyes. He kept reaching out. I didn't know how to shut it down without hurting him. I felt guilty. "Guilty?" I laughed bitterly. "You should have felt guilty for what you did to me, not for sparing his feelings." "I love you, Jonathan," she whispered, voice cracking. "I don't want to lose you." "You already have," I said, the words heavy in my mouth. "Every lie, every secret meeting, every message, you broke us piece by piece." She took a shaky step forward. "Please. We can still fix this." I inhaled deeply, my pulse a steady roar in my ears. "How?" I asked. "How do we repair something you shattered over and over again?" She reached for me, but I stepped back. That distance between us felt permanent. "It's over, Naomi," I said quietly. "I can't build a life with someone I can't trust. Someone who keeps clinging to someone else while telling me I'm the only one." She collapsed into tears. "Don't do this. I'll end it with Grant for good. I swear to you." I shook my head, slow and tired. "You already made that promise, and you broke it. Why should I believe anything you say now?" "I'll show you," she begged. "I'll prove it to you. Just give me one more chance. Just let me prove myself." A breath escaped me, slow and strained, the ache in my chest pressing hard. "I did give you that chance, Naomi," I replied, my voice empty. "I gave you all I had, my trust, my heart, and you crushed it. I can't keep going in circles." "Jonathan, please," she whispered, sinking to the floor and clinging to my hands like they were the only thing keeping her afloat. "Don't let this be how it ends." I gently pulled my hands away, speaking quietly, but with resolve. "I need truth. I need respect. You've got 3 days to gather your things and move out." Without another word, I turned and left her in the kitchen, her quiet sobs trailing behind me. I packed the basics, tossed them into a duffel, and booked a room at a nearby hotel. The house felt like it was suffocating me. My thoughts were chaos, and Naomi was the eye of that storm. I needed space to think, to breathe. Later that night, my phone lit up with a message from Camilla. "Hey, Jonathan, you free tonight?" I tapped out a weary response. "Not sure. Kinda not feeling it." Seconds later, my phone rang. "Jonathan," Camilla said, her tone light but concerned. "You've got to get out for a bit. Come on, let's hang. Get your mind off things." I didn't have the strength to refuse. Maybe being out would dull the roar in my head. We agreed to meet at a bar nearby. She had this bright energy, something that cut through the heaviness I'd been dragging. Even though my heart was raw, being around her brought a moment of relief, like catching my breath after being underwater too long. Eventually, she tilted her head and looked at me closely. "Jonathan, what happened with Naomi? Are you okay?" I hesitated. Then the words just came out. "It's over." She was lying. Still seeing Grant. "I'm done with her." Camilla's expression shifted, eyes widening. "Are you serious?" "Jonathan." "Yeah," I said quietly, fighting the sting. I didn't see it coming. Thought we were solid. Guess I was wrong. "I know how hard you fell for her," she said gently. "But you deserve better. You really do." We kept talking into the late hours. At some point, something changed. Something subtle but unmistakable. The air between us grew thick, charged. Her fingers brushed mine and stayed there. In that moment, something passed between us. Soft, real. The pain started to loosen its grip, replaced by a stillness I hadn't felt in ages. "Jonathan," she said softly, barely more than a breath. "I've been meaning to tell you I care about you." I met her eyes, my voice caught somewhere between surprise and silence. I don't even know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," she replied, leaning in. "Just know I'm here." She kissed me, gently at first, then with a quiet urgency. Everything else faded away until nothing existed but that moment, just the two of us. 3 days later, I returned home. Naomi stood by the doorway, suitcase at her feet, eyes swollen and red. "I can't do this, Jonathan," she said, voice shaking. "Please, let me fix this. I swear I will." I stood there, unmoving. No apology could erase what she'd done. My heart still ached, but my choice was clear. "Naomi," I said, voice even, "we're finished. I'm done pretending. I don't trust you anymore." She stepped closer, desperate. "Please, Jonathan, I made a mistake, but I'll change. Just give me one more chance." I shook my head. It was the hardest thing I'd had to do, but I meant it. "No. Whatever we had, you broke it. I can't put it back together." She looked at me, searching for something in my eyes. When she found nothing, her face fell. She wiped her cheeks and nodded faintly. "Okay," she said, barely audible. "I understand." She picked up her suitcase, turned, and walked out. The door shut quietly behind her. And in that silence, the finality of it hit me. There was grief, yes, but also something else. Relief. Closure. The months that followed were slow but healing. I poured myself into rebuilding. Camilla moved in not long after. Life wasn't flawless, but it felt right. Calmer. Real. We were shaping something new piece by piece, with each day more solid than the last. Then, one quiet evening, the doorbell rang. It was Naomi. She looked worn, eyes full of regret, voice trembling. "I'm sorry," she said. "I shouldn't be here, but I couldn't stay away. Jonathan, please. I'll do anything. Just give me one more chance." For a second, I said nothing. I watched her, remembering everything. A part of me would probably always feel something for her, but the wound she left hadn't healed easily, and I wasn't about to reopen it. "No, Naomi," I said, softly but with certainty. "That chapter's closed. I've moved on." Her face contorted, stunned by the revelation. "You moved on?" she repeated, disbelief dripping from every word. "With her?" Her eyes darted past me, narrowing the instant she caught sight of Camilla standing calmly at the kitchen counter. I gave a slight nod, my voice steady though low. "Yes, I've found some peace, Naomi. Whatever was between us, it's over now." The glimmer in her expression hardened into fury. "She's your answer?" she spat. She didn't wait for my reply. "No, you're just running away. From what we had. From me." Camilla stepped forward, her voice steady and composed. "I'm not here to take your place, Naomi," she said gently. "But Jonathan deserved more than what he got from you." That sentence was a spark in dry tinder. Everything broke open. Their voices collided, sharp and aching, each word soaked in years of hurt. I stood there, unmoving, trapped in the middle of their storm, knowing this was mine to untangle. "Enough!" I barked, pushing myself between them. "This solves nothing. Naomi, it's time to go." "It's over. Please, just go." She looked at me, stunned and hollowed, her voice barely audible. "You're really doing this?" I said nothing. My silence spoke volumes. She turned without another word, her steps slow, shoulders slumped beneath the weight of goodbye. The last fragments of our past followed her out into the night. I stayed behind, the silence she left behind echoing louder than the shouting had. No matter how deeply I tried to bury it, the past stayed rooted in me. The memories, sharp, stubborn, real, refused to fade. Weeks slipped by before I made the decision. I listed the house, ready to shut that chapter for good. Camilla and I packed what was ours and drove away, watching the city and its ghosts recede in the rearview mirror. We didn't have it all figured out, didn't know our final destination, but we had each other. That was enough. We were ready for something new, a quieter place, a clean slate, a new beginning. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you. She suggested opening the marriage and set off a chain of events that burned their relationship to the ground. It all began almost routinely. No scandals, no cracks, no betrayal. Just one sentence, spoken quietly one evening. "Let's be free." He had no idea what would follow. New lovers, nights away from home, the lingering scent of another man's cologne. She sparkled, he dimmed. But everything changed when someone unexpected entered the picture, someone she herself would never have allowed near his heart. From confusion to conflict, from double standards to a truth too loud to silence. Sometimes, to truly find yourself, you have to lose almost everything. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. It really helps my channel a lot. Please tell me in which city or country you watched this video. I value every one of your comments. So, let's get started. I'm 28 now, and what I'm about to recount is without a doubt the most bizarre chapter in my marriage so far. It all started on what seemed like an unremarkable night, when my 26-year-old wife suddenly suggested we consider opening up our relationship. I was completely caught off guard. There had been no recent fights, no visible cracks in our connection, and I genuinely believed our intimacy was still strong. So her proposal hit me like a freight train. She began laying out her case, how she believed traditional monogamy was a thing of the past, how some of her friends were experimenting with open relationships, and how she felt this was the next step in our growth as a couple. I was raised in a household where faithfulness and commitment were sacred. My father holds very old-school values, and if he heard this, he'd probably either dismiss it with a grunt or dive into a speech about the importance of fidelity. My mom is quieter, but I could already imagine the look of silent disappointment on her face if she knew I was even entertaining the idea of sharing my wife with strangers. At first, I rejected the idea completely, but she kept pushing, saying she felt smothered, that our relationship was stuck in a rut, and that I was clinging to outdated notions. Eventually, just to make the conversation stop, I reluctantly agreed, something I now see as the first real mistake I made. From the moment I gave her the green light, it was like she hit the gas. She created dating profiles, started dressing up more, and was suddenly out late almost every night. She'd come home wearing unfamiliar cologne, and she didn't hesitate to gush about the incredible experiences she was having with other men. It tore me up inside, but I tried to swallow it. After all, I had given her permission, even if everything inside me screamed that it was wrong. She became glued to her phone, giggling at messages, urging me to get out there too, making me feel like some pitiful loser for staying home. Then came a family gathering hosted by her father. I didn't feel like going, but I figured I should make an appearance. That's when I ran into Sierra, my wife's stepsister. She's close in age to us, but we'd only interacted briefly in the past since she lived in another state. My wife and she never got along, and the tension between them was always pretty obvious. We ended up talking, mostly as a way to escape the awkwardness of the larger group. To my surprise, the conversation with Sierra felt easy and natural. At one point, she brought up the rumors she'd heard about us having an open marriage. I confirmed it, and when she noticed my discomfort, she asked me point blank if I was truly okay with it. I told her the truth, that it was slowly destroying me. She looked at me with genuine concern and said it seemed like I was being taken for granted. We eventually moved on to lighter topics, but a few days later, she sent me a message. We started texting more often, initially laughing about awkward family drama. Over time, those chats grew more personal and flirtier. I never imagined anything like that happening with Sierra, but it did. One day she half joked that if my wife was out enjoying herself, maybe I should consider doing the same. I felt torn, annoyed by the idea, but also intrigued. Meanwhile, my wife kept parading her escapades, and I began wondering whether it was time I took her advice seriously. After some late-night talks, Sierra and I agreed to meet for coffee. I felt anxious and a little ashamed, but I couldn't forget that my wife had repeatedly urged me to explore. That coffee date turned into something more meaningful than either of us expected. We talked about everything: her painful breakup, my emotional burnout from the open arrangement, and it felt like we just clicked. The connection was real. That night, we kissed. It was electrifying and terrifying. My first reaction was that this was a massive mistake, but for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt genuinely appreciated, like someone actually saw me. Of course, the secret didn't stay buried for long. Eventually, word got out that I had been seeing Sierra. My wife exploded. This same woman who had flaunted her own flings now unleashed a storm of insults on me. She was enraged that I had gotten involved with her stepsister. The hypocrisy was staggering. She'd been coming home reeking of other men's cologne, practically celebrating her hookups, and now she acted like I'd betrayed her. She insisted I end things with Sierra immediately. She hurled accusations at her too, calling her disloyal and worse. Things got so heated, I had to pack a bag and crash at a friend's place for a few nights. When I got there, my friend looked me over and asked how things had spiraled so far out of control. I had no good answer. I just kept saying I thought I was doing what she wanted. But clearly, it wasn't. During that time, my wife flooded my phone with furious texts, threatening to kick me out if I didn't stop talking to Sierra. She also began spinning a narrative to our mutual friends, framing me as some predator who had taken advantage of her family. Conveniently, she left out her string of casual flings and how she'd mocked me for not following suit. But I had receipts, screenshots of messages where she detailed her sexual encounters in graphic detail. When I showed a few close friends, the truth became clear. They realized she had twisted the story to play the victim. Predictably, she claimed I was manipulating everyone and misrepresenting her, but the evidence spoke for itself. Meanwhile, Sierra faced backlash too. My wife tried to turn her father against her, but he wasn't easily swayed. He knew his daughter's temperament. While he wasn't thrilled with how things had played out, he didn't buy into the version where I was the villain. He told Sierra he wished she hadn't added more fuel to the fire, but he didn't cut ties with her. At the same time, my mother-in-law was furious with me. She insisted that dragging relatives into the situation was completely inappropriate, placing the blame solely on my shoulders. I tried to explain that it had been my wife's idea to begin with. She had been the one advocating for a marriage without traditional boundaries, but my mother-in-law refused to hear any of it. She demanded that I issue a full apology and essentially beg for forgiveness. I declined. In retaliation, my wife threatened to take me to court, promising divorce and financial destruction. I consulted a lawyer friend for his perspective. After reviewing our texts and communication, he was confident that painting me as the bad guy wouldn't hold up in front of a judge. We had no children, and our written exchanges clearly showed that the open marriage had originated with her. I told my wife that if she truly wanted a divorce, I wouldn't stand in her way. That only enraged her further. She exploded, shouting that ending the marriage had never really been her intention. Maybe she'd just been bluffing, but she soon came back with a new set of conditions, ones that required me to cut ties with Sierra. I refused to accept that. I laid it out plainly. If we were going to have an open relationship, it had to be on equal footing, or not at all. I told her if she couldn't handle my relationship with Sierra, then maybe this wasn't the arrangement she had truly wanted in the first place. She didn't take kindly to that, and became more malicious, spreading lies that I had coerced her into the open marriage idea. That's when everything shifted. I realized I wasn't going to keep retreating. I reminded her that I had solid proof, messages where she practically begged for the lifestyle we'd been living. I told her that if she planned on dragging this into court, I wouldn't hesitate to hand over all of it. At that point, she changed tactics and began playing emotional games. She even contacted my parents in tears, accusing me of being mentally unstable. My mother reached out, asking me directly what was really going on. I told her everything, the unfiltered truth. Both she and my father were stunned. My dad shook his head and simply said this was the consequence of losing sight of what marriage is supposed to mean. Part of me felt embarrassed, but more than anything, I felt relieved that they finally understood. Not long after, my wife made another scene. Late one night, she turned up at my friend's place, pounding on the door, saying she needed to talk. My friend told her to calm down or he'd call the authorities. From behind the screen, she started sobbing, begging for forgiveness, promising to cut off all her affairs if I'd agree to stop seeing Sierra. I asked her what made her casual hookups acceptable, while my involvement with her stepsister was suddenly intolerable. She couldn't give a real explanation, just kept saying it was different. I called her out for being completely hypocritical. She left in a fury, shouting curses as she stormed off. I stood firm. That was the moment I knew I was done. There was no saving this marriage. I filed the divorce paperwork. She pretended to be shocked, insisting she had never truly wanted it and that we should have tried therapy. But I saw it for what it was, another attempt at control. During mediation, she argued for alimony, claiming emotional trauma and financial need. But I came prepared with proof showing she had the ability to work and had spent money on multiple dates. The mediator wasn't moved. With no kids and just a rental lease between us, most of the process came down to dividing joint accounts and personal items. She demanded compensation for supposed emotional harm, but had nothing to support her claims beyond her word. When I provided screenshots of her bragging about dating several people, her argument collapsed. She also tried to shame me in front of the mediator for being with Sierra, calling it repulsive. I reminded her that she'd set no limits on who we could date and that this whole setup had been her idea. She had no comeback, just stared daggers at me. Eventually, we agreed on a simple division. I took what I needed, she kept her own things, and we signed off on the divorce. As she left the mediation office, tears ran down her face, her mother trailing behind, still looking at me like I was some kind of villain. But once the legal process began in earnest, I felt a huge sense of relief. She made one final dramatic gesture by airing our dirty laundry online, trying to paint me as cold and unfaithful. But most of our mutual friends already knew the truth. In fact, many had grown tired of her antics long ago. She had alienated so many people that most simply dismissed her outbursts. Watching her unravel like that was unsettling, but I knew it wasn't my job to intervene. As for Sierra and me, we kept things going. We didn't rush into anything serious, but there were definitely real feelings between us. We were cautious. Her father wasn't thrilled about the situation. My parents were afraid I was inviting more trouble into my life, and of course my ex was completely opposed to it. But none of this was about being provocative. What we had was genuine. She respected me, didn't treat me like I was disposable. We kept the relationship private until the divorce was finalized, just to avoid more chaos. Once the paperwork was done, I moved into a modest apartment. It wasn't anything extravagant, but it was calm, and that calm meant everything. There were no more screaming matches at midnight, no more fake smiles over dinner. My ex was mostly out of my life, except for the occasional outburst via text, which I ignored unless there was a legal reason to respond. Sierra started coming by more often, and over time, we built something honest. No secrets, no facades. Of course, some family members judged us, but we chose honesty over pretending. A few people asked how I could date my ex-wife's stepsister. I told them the truth. It wasn't some calculated move, and it wasn't about payback. My ex had wanted the open marriage and ran with it, all while disregarding how I felt. I never went looking for it, but it found me exactly when I needed it. Someone who truly heard me, who actually understood. If my ex hadn't insisted on opening up our relationship, none of what followed would have happened. But she pushed for it, and when things unraveled, she was quick to paint me as the villain. People believe the version of the story that fits their narrative, but I know what really happened. In hindsight, I should have stood firm from the outset and drawn a hard line, or even said no altogether. But I avoided conflict, and that passivity only dug the hole deeper. The cruel irony. She once mocked me for being too traditional, yet the moment I began seeing Isel, she clung to old-fashioned notions of fidelity and betrayal. She never truly wanted an open marriage, just the advantages that came with pretending she did. She chased the excitement without wanting to face the emotional fallout, and as soon as the situation slipped out of her control, she spiraled. I don't regret standing up for myself. What I do regret is how long I let her trample over my boundaries. There's still a sting when I recall how quickly everything disintegrated. Our marriage wasn't lengthy, but I never imagined it would implode so dramatically. Truthfully, maybe we were never compatible to begin with. She craved freedom with zero consequences and expected me to quietly watch from the sidelines. That dynamic was never sustainable. When she realized I wouldn't keep accepting her double standards, the entire structure collapsed. This chapter taught me something crucial. Some people grow, and others simply show you who they've always been. I learned the hard way that you can't fake alignment with something that violates your core beliefs. An open relationship only works when both people are genuinely committed to it. You can't count on loyalty from someone treating their partner as an afterthought. In the end, she paved the road to her own undoing. She wanted to control the script, but couldn't handle it when the story turned against her. And strangely enough, that chaos is what led me to Sierra. That might raise eyebrows, but it's just how things unfolded. I'm not claiming to be flawless. It was a complicated, messy path. But Sierra offered me more honesty and kindness than my ex ever did. We're fully aware of how bumpy the beginning was, and we're both trying hard not to repeat past patterns. We're not rushing into anything serious like marriage. Right now, we're just taking our time, appreciating the peace we found, without the storm my ex stirred up. And to those who judge me for ending up with her stepsister, I get how it looks. But let's not pretend my ex didn't open that door herself when she urged us to see other people. She had no problem hooking up with strangers. But the moment I found someone, especially someone she detested, she unraveled. I don't feel any guilt about it. If anything, it taught me a vital lesson. Don't create rules unless you can handle them being followed by others. She's off doing her own thing now, likely still spinning the story. I'm not wasting energy chasing rumors. People will believe whatever suits them. The ones who matter already know the truth, and that's enough for me. What matters most is that I walked away from that toxic cycle. I've got my own space now, a more stable life, and a relationship that, while unconventional in its origins, feels far more real. Sometimes I still can't believe it all started with her demanding an open marriage, only to fall apart when I began seeing her stepsister. The drama was intense, but it taught me something. I'm not weak. I can speak up for myself. Sure, I had doubts. I wrestled with guilt. But then I'd remember all those nights she came home, grinning from ear to ear, boasting about her hookups, while I sat there feeling invisible. She laid the groundwork for her own humiliation, and when it backfired, she tried to smear my name. Thankfully, the truth was on my side. I won't pretend every choice I made was perfect, but I'm thankful I took my life back before it went even further downhill. Filing for divorce felt like finally breathing after being suffocated for so long. No more waiting around to be granted permission to be happy. If she still wants to play mind games, she can do it without dragging me into them. Even her father eventually admitted he didn't truly hate me. He was just upset over how everything fell apart. He's not thrilled that I'm dating Sierra, but he respects that we're adults, and no one was coerced. That meant more to me than I expected. I've heard people call this karma coming from my ex. Maybe it is. She built a situation she thought she could control, only to watch it blow up in her face. And the most devastating part for her? I ended up with the one person she never wanted me to be close to. Now she's left to sit in the aftermath, and there's nothing left to spin. As for me, I'm finally free of the chaos, and I can finally breathe. I'm not stressed about her next move or whatever lies she's spreading. If she pushes too far, I have the truth to back me up. So that's the story. My wife asked for an open relationship, and it all went downhill when I took her up on it and fell for her stepsister. It's messy, it's dramatic, but it's real. What I've learned? Never let anyone talk you into something that doesn't sit right in your soul. And if you find yourself in that spot, don't stay quiet. Speak your truth before you lose yourself entirely. I'm moving forward now. I'm with someone who genuinely cares, and I'm done with the manipulation. It's not perfect, but it's honest. And that's 1,000 times better than the wreckage I walked away from. In the end, I guess this is my strange version of a happy ending. I got out with my sanity. She can hold on to the drama. I'll take my peace. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.